Hidma, as you rightly mentioned, is considered as one of those military leaders who has a tremendous influence on that area and also on the psyche of the Maoists. That yes, here is one invincible militaristic leader who can, launch attacks, cause great damage to police security forces, but at the same time he avoids the net of the security forces consistently, continuously. Some tactical errors that we have committed from time to time, which probably help them a lot more. In fact, I used to tell my boys after the operations and when we were about to launch operations, saying that we lose wherever we have lost. Where we lose because we have probably not followed all the precautions that have to be followed.
Durga Prasad. He's former DGP of the Central Reserve Police Forces, which is the foremost central force in countering left-wing extremism. But he's been, more known for his role in shaping the Greyhounds, making it the successful force that it is today, the crack commando force of the Andhra Pradesh Police. Which actually was one of the first forces that initiated a battle against Maoists and had great success in Andhra Pradesh and eliminating Maoism from Andhra Pradesh. So we are meeting Mr. Durga Prasad at a time, when there is significant churn in India's long battle with left-wing extremism. Just 2 days ago, security forces eliminated Madvi Hidma, the Maoist most formidable tactical commander and a symbol of their lethality. His killing marks not just an operational milestone, but a moment to reflect on the decades-long evolution of counter-insurgency in India. And few people understand this landscape as deeply as Mr. Durga Prasad. So, sir, I'll start with the first question that is there in the news, and that is, the killing of Madvi Hidma. It is being seen as a major psychological and operational setback for the Maoists. From your experience, what does eliminating a figure like Hidma practically changes on the ground, and what does it not change?
So, as things stand, Hidma, as you rightly mentioned, is considered as one of those military leaders who has a tremendous influence on that area and also on the psyche of the Maoists. That yes, here is one invincible militaristic leader who can, launch attacks, cause great damage to police security forces, but at the same time he avoids the net of the security forces consistently, continuously. And that sort of a leader, if he's hit, definitely it hits the morale, number one. Number two, along with him, what is to be noticed is it's not just Hidma that was hit. Along with him, quite a few other people, in fact, his entire protection team, and that of Devji also, some members of Devji's team were also picked up. And but a lot of divisional committee members, members, they have been also been picked up, arrested. So consequently, it's clearly seen that after all, why did they move out of Chhattisgarh? They moved out of Chhattisgarh because they're not able to stand up to the heat, the pressure that was mounted there by the security forces, whether it is central government forces or state government forces. So now that they have moved out, that itself is a clear indication that they have taken a step back. And that step back is not going to be one step now, it's going to be multiple steps. Because with the disappearance of Hidma from the scene, along with a large number of middle-level leaders, and slightly, I mean, not the top at the CCM level, but the next level divisional committee members and other members. Now that all of them have gone, quite a large number have gone there, in fact. Today, if you see, I think except the North Bastar, the South Bastar and Western Bastar, all of them have either surrendered or have been removed from the scene. And some leaders are left in Odisha, but Odisha itself, they have become very weak. So that being the case, in the present scenario, what will happen, my assessment or our assumption is that this will lead to a faster decimation of the party. and a large number of people are likely to surrender because the call given by, if you remember, Maloj Venugopal, when he surrendered, he also given a call to everybody saying that this is not the right time to fight. This it is time that is for us to surrender and come into the mainstream. And if we have to do the people struggle, it should be from within the people and not from outside the people. So his understanding was very clear that armed struggle, which they were saying that the prolonged armed struggle, which they were speaking of for all these years, he says no, this is no more the time for it. In fact, for more than one reason, it's no more the time for it. Well, he may not mention all those reasons. He may say that simply it is for our own sustenance and for our own growth. Better we leave the, being in the shadows, but come out into the public and then lead the struggle. People struggle from within the people. But the fact remains that it's no longer the time for them now, not for these struggles at all. So it's going to be, it is going to vanish fast, very fast. You're on mute.
Sorry. Sir, you've headed the CRPF, and at your time also, Hidma inflicted quite a few casualties on, the Central Forces and Chhattisgarh Police. Uh, you know, uh, from your experience, what made him so elusive? And this he eventually became a mythical figure in Chhattisgarh, as if he was some big guy. In fact, I've heard many people say that he's not as big as you guys think. But the fact that from Tadmetla to Minpa, he remained for more than 10 years. He continued to terrorize the region and remained elusive. What made him so elusive?
One, of course, he's a man from that area. So he knows the area. He's from Puvarti, and that is the base in that place from where he's coming from. And so he knows the entire area like the back of his palm. That is his biggest advantage. Number two, he was a tribal himself. So when he can merge with the people fast, he can vanish among them fast. Then he can communicate with them well, and then they will also can communicate back with him. So that's one major strength. And so in these two things apart, um, there are some tactical errors that we have committed from time to time, which probably help them a lot more. In fact, I used to tell my boys after the operations and when we were about to launch operations, saying that we lose wherever we have lost. Where we lose because we have probably not followed all the precautions that have to be followed, the steps that we have to take. Some of the standard operating procedures were ignored or given the by not followed the way it should be done. So if we do our operations correctly 100%, the chances of Naxals hitting us will not be there. If you see, quite a lot of the vehicle blasts is because that at that point of time, whosoever was there said, "Ki chalo chalte hain," without understanding whether it should do that in that area or should not do in that area. So this sort of a thing is some of our own mistakes probably contributed to some of the things. If you look at supposing where we lost 24 people in while construction of a bridge. Now, if you go to the same place every day, same time, same style, you are setting a pattern, and that pattern is something that they study, and which is that is what leads to casualties later. So, if we avoid patterns, that predictability about our movement, our action, that will be gone. Once that predictability is not there, it will be difficult for them to hit that easily. So, because of the predictability, we lost quite a few places, our officers and men. That should not have happened. So, as far as his escaping, is because that probably we move in large numbers, and when we are moving in large numbers, then there's a question of this noise. Somebody's even sneezing will get to be noticed by others, and then automatically news travels fast. That's one of the reasons why Greyhounds was always in small numbers, very small numbers, small teams. And one of the reasons for success of Greyhounds in operations was because they're small numbers. And same, that's the reason why we wanted to fashion Cobra, which I raised in CRPF, on the same lines as Greyhounds, and to ensure that we move there in small numbers, and that advantage of small numbers can be taken full advantage by us. So that's the sort of a thing that needs to be done in these operations. Because our movement in large numbers, our officers or men on the field making some small mistakes which expose our movements and other things. These were some of the reasons why we lost, and more than their strength. And their advantage was that, like, knowledge of the area, knowledge of the language, knowledge of the people, familiarity with the people. So that is what they have, you know, taken great advantage of.
Interesting, you mentioned Greyhounds. You were one of the key architects of the success of the force. You designed its training modules and so many other things you did. You designed its strategy. What made Greyhound so successful? And those were initial days of Maoism when Maoism was sort of limited to Andhra Pradesh and parts of Bihar. So at that time, what were the challenges that raising such a force entailed, and what were the challenges of operations at that time? I mean, today we have so many technological help which may not have been available at that time, and yet Andhra Pradesh and Greyhounds were able to successfully counter Maoism. What did Greyhounds do that others didn't for
Uh,
so long?
well, Greyhounds was set in 1989 by Mr. K.S. Vyas. And that was a time when one of the officers of SSB, Mr. Bhati, joined us. And so while Mr. Vyas was the person to have started it, and Mr. Bhati was the one as a trainer who trained our forces, many officers came after that leading the force who gave stability to the entire force. But some of the beautiful things that there were with the Greyhounds was that this was a deputation force, deputationist force, so people used to come and go, and only the fittest were always taken. And whosoever joins the force, whether right from an IPS officer who is going to lead the teams to the constables, they were only taken based on their fitness, their strength, and their skill that they have attained. And we used to give them all about 14 weeks of training in jungle warfare, totally unconventional warfare. We used to teach them and send them there. But some of the strengths there were that in the force, there is no question of importance to the rank, but there was importance to the skill set. That is what was given more importance. So, if a DSP who is posted there is not fit, for any reason he was posted there, and I'm not able to, or not only me, even my predecessors, my successors, if they're not able to, uh, you know, give the command of the unit to him, then they will just simply sideline the person and give the command of it to the next in line, maybe an inspector. Sometimes there are times when a sub inspector was leading a unit which is supposed to be led by a DSP. Similarly, the type of weapons we used to give. In those days, AKs used to be very few. Mostly it used to be SLRs and 303s. So the AK would be given not to the leader of the team, but to the fellow who shoots the best. The best
Mhm.
fire shooter would get the weapon. So basically, the recognition was to what capabilities you have. Even in training, there's no question of on the ground. There are only two categories of people used to be there: the trainer and the trainee. The trainees don't distinguish between DSP, inspector, sub-inspector, constable, head constable, nothing. So that was no totally rank neutral. That was one of the major strengths there. Secondly, when an operation happens, we used to go there ourselves, the leaders would go there, see who played what type of a role, and the credit due to a person would be given straight away there. Whether it is somebody who had been in the force for a long time or somebody who just joined, completed his training. There are times when somebody who just completed his training, very young in the force, and because from training, he used to come to us, get trained with us, and then go on to the force, which means that he's not even completed one full year. But if he has done phenomenally good work, he would get the recognition and he would get the reward totally. That sort of a thing. So people knew that their reward they will not be cheated out of their reward or their recognition. Not even reward, I will say recognition. That was something very, very fair. And another thing was that, see, in Greyhounds, our trainers used to be the people who are in the field. They would come, people in the training wing and the people in the operations wing. They used to get rotated. So whatever is happening in the field, we take that into the training and train them to face a similar situation. So there's a constant change that used to happen in the training. We had one type of training for Telangana region, another type of training for our Nalamala region, a third type of training for our AOB area, depending on the terrain, the difficulty to sustain there, and the number of days we have to stay in the field. So everything used to be on the change. I mean, the change used to be constant. There's no such thing as something is constant there. The change was the only thing that was constant there. So, and the change was based on the ground realities, the tactics that the enemy is adopting. And if you come across something that the enemy has adopted, we would immediately take that, study it, and then accordingly conduct our training. In fact, we never treated Naxals as some band of untrained and uncouth fellows. No, we always looked at them as people who have used the who are very good at adapting to the situation around, who are very good at innovating or rather improvising on what is there. And so we said, let's now respect them for their skill set, for their improvisation, the level of improvisation that they do, and then but raise ourselves much beyond them and then hit them. And that's what we did always continuously. And because of that, there is always that hunger to learn something more, both from the enemy, from other forces, and use that in our tactics. So that's how we used to do, and that's one of the reasons why Greyhounds had succeeded, and probably that's in one area that's in one way we are different from most other forces.
Right. I will ask one more question, and then I will, open the floor for questioning from other guests. How have, counter-insurgency operations evolved from the time you served with the Greyhounds to your tenure as CRPF DG, and now, which shifts you think made the most difference?
So I was there in SIB also. In fact, I should have mentioned this earlier. One of the reasons for Greyhound success was also the type of intelligence input that we used to get from SIB and also from the state police. In fact, we used to train the entire state police in jungle tactics so that whosoever is there, whichever area, they should have basic understanding of these things. So that was the thing. But when I was there in SIB or in Greyhounds for that matter, human was the one which was the major chunk. That was the biggest chunk. I mean, tech int was very, very small. In fact, when I was in SIB, I purchased for the first time a small camcorder, very small, which can fit into the palm. And that was a big achievement for us. We said, "Arey, what a lovely thing that we got now. We can put it on the dashboard of the car and record what's happening in front of us while we are tailing somebody." That used to. I mean, we were very enthused about that sort of a thing. But today, technology plays a much bigger role in surveillance, in tracking. So that is one of the major changes that has happened. But the recent one, Hidma, that has happened, that was more of human than of techint. That's the beauty of it. That Hidma comes into AP area, the place where the Naxal movement has actually taken very strong roots first, and that's where he's decimated, and not by the techint, but sheer human. That's the beauty of the whole thing.
Right, sir. Now I will ask other people at the Indian Express to ask questions. If Jayaprakash, would you want to ask a question? He's our Chhattisgarh correspondent. Jayaprakash, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hello.
Yeah. If you would like to ask a question to Mr. Durga Prasad.
Sir, I was saying that in 2021, Hidma, handed over the reins of the Battalion 1 to Barse Deva, another tribal who's from the same village. Now, even though Hidma is dead, I get to know from my sources that there are still 100 more uh, people in the Battalion 1, and they all have automatic and semi-automatic weapons. So now, how do we see this? Is it that one leader has gone and another leader has taken its place, or it's over for the Maoists now?
Well, that I am told that Barsideva is also from Puvarti, and out of the 40 houses or 45 houses that are there in that village, almost there are about 100 youngsters who have 100 members from that village who are in the Naxal movement. That's what I was reading from the papers. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact thing of what's happening today. But the point is, he might have handed over to Barsideva. Does he have the same amount of persona that Hidma has? If he doesn't have, will he be able to generate that? That's the major thing, number one. Number two, I mean, many of them who have now been associated with Hidma for so long, will that have an impact on their mindset and say, "Ki, why all this struggle?" Because now, one after another, the leaders are coming out and they're saying, and the most important leaders, they're coming out and saying that this is not the time for this. So while they may hold on for some more time, the pressure is such. I don't think, in fact, um, the number of people that have come into Andhra, they didn't come yesterday or day for yesterday. What I get to hear is that they came almost about 2 months back or 1.5 months back. And since then, they've broken up into small, small groups and taken shelter in different places, which their sympathizers have provided for them. So it's not that this has happened all of a sudden today. And their movement was probably under watch of AP police. They were waiting for the right time to pick up all of them to come in. Maybe if they had waited for some more time, some more people could have come into their net. But for this incident, because the moment this incident happened, they probably knew that once this incident comes out, that Hidma has been finished off. Most of them will again probably run away from Andhra also. So before that happened, they were picked up. So many of them, probably my own estimate is that while there are 100 people with weapons there, with good sophisticated weapons there, the ammunition supply will be a big question, which was there in the past also, and this will again be there. And then the type of leadership, whether Barsi Deva can give that sort of a thing, is a question mark. And even if he is able to give, for how long will it be? It will, if in my own assessment, it will be petering out maybe in another 6 months max. There may be still some people left here and there who will be indulging in some small incident here and there, but I don't think the sort of attacks, the sort of things that was happening in the past, it's going to be a thing of the past and not something of the future, which you have seen in the last 2 months itself. And that will continue. It will not see, just because Hitma died, it's not that the police or security forces are going to bring down their level of alertness. It will continue till we are certain that every major force there is out into the public domain now and has surrendered before the security forces.
Just one last question to add to this. There are other activists over here who are fearing as to what will happen to the splinter groups. Now it's a politically headless organization. All the political leaders have either surrendered or have been gunned down, and now this headless body, politically headless body, it is left with the military, and these are splinter groups now. So, sir, going forward, does it worry you that these splinter groups can, cause more violence, and how what all we need to do now to ensure that these splinter groups they don't cause much violence and does not lead to casualty of our security personnel.
So what happens is, for an organization like this, it requires ideological input. Without that
Hmm.
ideological bond holding them together, they cannot be there for a long time. As you rightly said, yes, they'll all break up into splinter groups. But how the splinter groups will be able to sustain is one question mark. Number two, if you have seen in the past, in the 80s in Andhra Pradesh, there are more than 46 to 56 splinter groups. Janashakti, this pro Linpiao group, anti Linpiao group. I mean, just mention the names and they are there. Praja Pratikatana, Pratikatana, like this, umpteen number of groups were there. Either they fought among themselves or they fought against the security forces. But ultimately, all of them got decimated within no time. The same thing will happen here also. If they break up into splinter groups, yes, they may indulge in some amount of violence only in the villages, threatening people for their collection, etc. Once that dries up, and meanwhile, even before it dries up, when the security forces get a little more active in those areas, people themselves will come and tell them, okay, now this fellow is threatening me, that fellow is threatening me. So because there'll be so many groups, their population also will be broken up between them, and they themselves will give the information. It will become much, much, much easier to control them. Any movement, as long as it is peaceful and like you have seen the Kisan thing in Delhi, as long as they are doing nothing, no violence was there, nothing could be done on that against them by the security forces. But the day somebody becomes violent, it becomes much easier to handle them and to finish up the movement there.
Thank you, sir.
Ankita Deshkar wanted to ask a question. Ankita, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I had three questions. Sorry. So, the first is like if you wish to go off record on this, in case of several surrenders as well as neutralization, there what kind of intelligence input would lead to certain conditions like this? So, in case of surrender of Sonu Dada, there was a lot of let's say talks that went on with ministers, with people near to Sonu. So, in case of this particular elimination of Hidma, what kind of intelligence inputs would have led to this operation in the forest?
So, I mean, nothing need, you don't have to take it off the record. See, it's a popular misconception that police are trigger happy and would like to eliminate whosoever is speaking against the government or whosoever has raised arms against the government. We can only raise our weapon against somebody in self-defense. This is taught to our people all the time because, after all said and done, it's not that they want to go and finish off somebody or pick up somebody and shoot, as popularly being mentioned by the so-called um, Praja Sanghalu that or the front organizations. So what generally happens is we get information, as I was telling you, when these people come in. How do we get information? Like, for example, in one of the operations that we conducted, we had information that a large number of shoes were purchased in a particular village, in a particular place. Then we had also information that a large amount of rice and dal and other things were purchased from some other village. So we do a triangulation and see, okay, if these people have purchased from here, if these people have purchased from here, they must all be going for a training camp. Where could this be? Look at the map, see the contours, yeah, where are the water points, where are the places wide enough for people to stay, etc. And then we launch. So it's not an intelligence where somebody comes and tells you, okay, so and so is here, pick him up. No, it doesn't happen like that. Yes, that sort of information also happens once in a while when these people misbehave with women in villages or with somebody else. Then, out of angst, if somebody's child was taken away, lured away, saying that no, no, we'll give you freedom, that and this, and the child goes away, the parents have the heartburn. So some of those times we get information which is direct, but most times the information is indirect information. So uh, we'll use it fully, using, as you said, now the maps, understanding the area, terrain, where they can go, etc. So that's how I do. Now, once we go there, no, it's not that they're sitting there and we go and shoot them from all sides. No, it doesn't happen like that. Most often, in fact, every time, literally, I can tell you out of my this thing that there may be out of 100 operations, that one operations or two operations where we could reach up to them 100% without being noticed. They have their watches. In fact, they have their security rings. In sometimes when big leaders are there, they'll have two rings, three rings. So if when you are crossing one ring, other ring, you will get detected, and then they will open fire. If they don't open fire and they see, they understand that yeah, the police force is large and want to surrender, no problem. But if they miscalculate our strength or the type of force that has gone in one particular operation, they thought it was a local police and not Greyhounds, and because they later they said, sir, we thought it was local police and we opened fire, and it was Greyhounds, and you shot down a lot of us. But those fellows who are there on the spot, they will automatically be taken and arrested. Similarly, when somebody wants to surrender, in fact, surrender policy was one major policy of government of Andhra Pradesh in those days, and even today. Not only Andhra Pradesh, now all states are doing this. That anybody wants to surrender through a school teacher, through where in the school where they studied, or through a sarpanch of a village, or through a local MLA, or through some revenue officer, or through a contractor, whomsoever they want to surrender. We have given that open blanket chance. In fact, Hidma's mother herself was requesting Hidma, come and surrender, son, beta aa jao. So this sort of a thing, in fact, we have been doing. In fact, the local officers went and spoke to her and told her, keep call your son back. Or my sister was calling him back. Like this, things we a lot of proactive steps from the security forces, district administration to contact their families and tell them, "Ki chalo unko bula lo." We'll give them full protection. And after all, many people have surrendered over these years, whether it is Jampanna or right now Malojil Koteswara, etc. All of them surrendered. Nothing happened to any of them. So that's the assurance we give that once you surrender, you will be given full protection and you will be permitted to join the mainstream. The purpose of the surrender is for them to join the mainstream. We tell you, yes, please join the mainstream. And once they have come out, join the mainstream. In fact, in Andhra, one of the leaders, she became a political leader and an MLA. So that what can be more transparent than that? That a terrorist, somebody has been branded as a terrorist, as an Naxal, comes out, joins the mainstream, becomes a political leader, and then becomes a leader of the whole area. That's the best that can happen. I mean, there can't be more than that. So that sort of opportunity is given to everybody.
Sir, along with surrenders, there is rehabilitation policy too. So Maharashtra has a very good rehabilitation policy when it comes to surrendered Naxals. So they provide jobs the very instant you are here. So there's Lloyd's Metal, a company in Gadchiroli that hires 90% of the surrendered Naxals after their skill development and everything is done. So how good is rehabilitation policy in other states? Because Maharashtra employs them at different levels, especially in the private sector, and also offers skill development and literacy exams that they can undertake. So, how good is the rehabilitation and policy? Like surrender policy, every state has, but how good are the rehabilitation policies elsewhere?
So the rehabilitation policies, if you ask me, started long back in AP, copied in other states, improved in other states, bettered. So there's almost literally a competition at one point of time as to how good each is going to do over the other. In fact, some of the officers also, men in the force also used to feel, "Arey, these fellows were killing so many fellows. Now they're coming out and they're getting the best of life." But then we tell them that their coming out is far better than their being in the jungle and continuing their lawlessness and their violence and the destruction. So instead of that, they're coming out, join the mainstream, and then becoming good is far better than that. And it is always worthwhile, and the expense is worthwhile. So in the initial days, for example, when we first started this rehabilitation thing, anybody coming in surrendering, they would be given in those days 5 lakh rupees to settle down and get into things. Then if there somebody wanted to study, we permitted them to rejoin back the colleges. We helped them, not permitted, we helped them to join back the colleges. In fact, I know one important leader who became later an engineer and a good contractor. And similarly, doctors, there are people who joined back medicine and became doctors here in Andhra. So that sort of a rehabilitation was done at every level. But now, as what you are just saying, things have improved and gone to a different level in the sense that the skill development thing, which was being spoken of since say 2015 or so, has now taken deeper roots, and the people are being put to better employment opportunities. Otherwise, probably in those days, whatever thing was there, suppose somebody wanted to have his land tilled, so they used to get tractors and other things. So from those tractors now to actually being employed in factories, there are always been a steady stream of programs from the government. In fact, we had in Andhra a program called Riyadh. What was that? Remote and interior area development schemes. So in those things, people who used to come out also were being deployed and they were being brought into the normal life so that they can be comfortable. They don't have to regret having come out of the forest, saying that we came with the hope that we'll be taken care of, but now we are being kicked around. So that feeling we don't want to give. So that's why it has been done. So I wouldn't, as I said some time back, that since I'm now out of this stream for the last 8.5 years, I do not exactly know what are the programs now, but they are being improved on day by day. And I also know that each state is competing with the other in taking care of the people who surrender with them.
Uh, Sir, also Hidma was a tribal leader, and if we go through several social media posts about Hidma now, there are various comments that also sympathize with Hidma and the poverty village. So, do such encounters risk alienating tribal populations, or do they like how do you see them when it comes to their own village? So, somebody from their village has been killed. So, there are a lot of sympathizers with them. So how does this then pan out ahead?
However bad or good a person is, for his parents, for her parents, and for their siblings, their village, they are still people. अपना है आदमी और अपना है. So how can they be other than sympathetic to them? They will be. We have to understand that, and we have to sort of help them also come out of that by giving whatever support we can give to the village to stabilize. Not a facility to individuals there, but to the entire village if facilities can be created and things can be improved. If roads are being laid in those areas, the roads are not being laid for just security forces movement. Security forces will go with or without the road. The road, if it is there, the children in the village can go to schools, medical facilities can come there, ambulances can go there, all sorts of facilities can be improved. So these sort of things will have to be done in those villages now, so that they don't feel that yes, somebody who was there who would have taken care of us is missing. So we should take no no. If he had been there, he would have given you 10%. We'll give you 90%, 100%. This is what we can do to improve your lives. That's the stand that the government will have to take. And they have been taking the same thing. That's the reason why things have vanished in Andhra. See, Andhra and Telangana, where the Naxal movement, when I say Andhra, I'm speaking of the United Andhra, where the Naxal movement was strong, very, very strong, where we suffered, the police security forces suffered huge losses over a period of time. By 2005, when I joined in, 2004 when I joined, and by 2007 when I left, the things have changed drastically. Not just because of the actions that the Greyhounds and SIB have done, but also because of programs like Riyadh, etc., where we reached out to the people. And that has to continue everywhere, so that then this sympathy wave that you're speaking of in the village for him, or people like him who lost their lives in the movement, will vanish.
So there's Mr. Besra and Devuji are also there. And like when the surrenders of Bhupati, like so happened, CM spoke that when the Maoism is in its last leg, it will hit with its full capacity. So what do you think are the threats that these two guys now supposed to be general population? What efforts could be underway to catch or neutralize these two guys as well?
So there is a little bit of an echo. What you are asking is about me, Mr. Besra and
And Devuji.
Devji. What is the government's action going to be, and
Yes. And are they like, do they possess a threat to the general public? Because while Sonu surrendered, the CM of Maharashtra had this particular thought that now that Maoism is in its last leg, they will hit with all their might and there would be a lot of casualties ahead. So we have to be prepared with for what's coming.
So as things stand today in Jharkhand, where Mr. Besra is present, their strength is very low. Same is the case with Devji. There's a lot of talk that he's going to surrender. In fact, there's a lot of this thing in their sympathy. I mean, the front organizations repeatedly saying that the police already they have caught him and he's with the police, and please make sure that he's not eliminated, etc. All right. It will not be like that, but I will not be surprised. I will not be surprised if both of them come and surrender very soon. Because if you see Malojil Kotisar Rao's recent, when he surrendered, he gave even a video of this thing. He said, it's not today. Way back in 2011 itself, we have realized our weaknesses. And we have been saying that we should reconsider what we are doing. Just as in during emergency, when they were at their lowest ebb, they thought that let us stop violent activities for a while, go back to the people, strengthen their front organizations, and then come back. Same way, in when he surrendered, Malal Koteswara mentioned about the whatever resolutions that were passed earlier. He referred to all of them. If you go back and see them, August 24, in the August 24 itself, they have taken a decision that yes, this is not the right time to go any more further on this. We'll have to step back. And then his wife surrendered, and wife of Kesharo surrendered. Sorry, and Asanna surrendered. One after another, they started surrendering from that point itself. So I will not be surprised if these two also surrender shortly. And if they don't, we miss them narrowly so many times. But now that their base is getting eroded, the support bases are getting eroded drastically. Maybe one of these days we'll have an exchange with them. And in the exchange, if they give up weapons and say, okay, we surrender, then they will be taken into the custody. Otherwise, then if they continue to fight, then they will have to lose their lives like some of these people. So that's most likely to happen. But I believe that some of them will surrender quickly, particularly both Devji and Misr, etc. Both don't have any now big bases to sustain them for too long.
Uh, Thank you, Ankita. That was a long list of questions. So now, Manas would like to ask a question. Manas Srivastava, please go ahead.
Hello, sir. Though Ankita covered one of my questions, I'll keep it very short. Sir, I want you to actually reflect also on the pressure which security forces or have to face while neutralizing high targets in this area, because we know there's a ethical responsibility also to avoid rights violations in villages where support is ambiguous and the coercion is from both sides. And at the same time, if you can also tell us that, when these mythical characters are made in the society, how should police or security forces or somebody from the government side, how should the counter narratives should be created to strengthen, so that this insurgent legitimacy is weakened? Uh, do we do something in reality on that front?
There is actually, I don't know, I mean, when Naxalism was at the peak in Andhra, for example, we had our own cultural troops because we realized that they go out to the villages, there's a song and dance, stage, street dramas and all that, which they were doing. As I said, we learnt a lot from them. Having learnt a lot, in those days, Mr. Dora was the one our DG int, and he said, okay, let's do something. Let's exactly do what they are doing. So we had our own troop. Our troop used to go and enact dramas for about 3 hours, and we used to give protection to the troops because for fear that they will be attacked. Because they used to go to the interior villages and there establish a stage and everything. And for the next 3 4 days, there'll be 3 4 dramas that they'll enact, each one for 3 hours, where they show what happens when you actually join the movement, lose touch with your family, lose touch with your good life, and how you are stopping development that is being brought in by the government, etc. The type of pressure on that the government used to lay for ensuring that the government's developmental activities reach to the public has increased now much more than in the past. Governments would like the people to know what are the developmental activities that they're doing, and they want the benefits of that to reach to the people much more than what they were doing in the long back. So that being the case, it's imperative on our part to continue that sort of an activity. In fact, in those days, we not only used to do this drama, but then we used to also create cassettes with songs. Like they were doing the cassettes, we would do the cassettes and say, okay, what is the different, and the same tunes, sometimes the same tunes that balladeers like Gaddar would to sing. Same things we will take and sing and show that, okay, which, because these are tunes, catchy tunes, which people, respond to faster. And that sort of a thing has happened. But now the type of reach has, changed because what we were doing in drama troops is now taken care of by the videos and, I mean, sorry, by TVs and other things. The whole scenario has changed. So now the one of the things that they do is our security forces, even CRP, they will go to villages, take the children out. In particularly in Andhra and Telangana, I've seen that a lot. They'll take them in village children from interior villages, bring them to cities, show them what's the world like outside the small thing that the small um, what is the small world that they have from them, bring them out and show them, okay, this is the whole world outside, see it, this is what you can benefit from. And so that exposure was being given to them much more than what was being done in the past. So this sort of a uh, activity from the security forces side is enormous. In fact, I knew one of my colleagues who is right now a member of the parliament, Krishna Prasad, when he was in Vishakhapatnam, he had a three-tent program. Whenever in the shandies, they used to be there in the villages, interior villages, then he had in the shandy there would be three tents. One tent which will be explained to the public about all the government schemes, where what types of things the government wanting to reach out to them, etc. The second one would be a tent in which medicines will be distributed to people. Doctor will be sitting there looking at them, dealing with them. And the third one to deal with police, this thing where they take complaints from local people, deal with them there itself and give relief to them. In our own CRP camps, we started hospitals in interior areas. In fact, the Naxals threatened the public not to go to the hospitals and take medicines from there. But our people said, no, you don't have to give us anything. You don't even have to tell us where the Naxals are. You don't have to tell them any of their plans. Simply come take benefit and go. Now, having taken a benefit from us, then they would think, sir, aaj sham ko mat jana, udhar mat jana, is taraf mat jana. So that sort of a thing is good enough for us. So slowly, a lot of trust building has happened between the security forces and the villagers also. Where villagers may not be wanting to buy enmity with the Naxals by taking security forces to where the Naxals are seated, but definitely they will give enough indications on what to see and what not to see, where to go, where not to go, etc. That sort of a thing, which is good enough. The same thing has to continue in a much bigger way, and the bridges have to be built continuously.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Deeptiman.
Ritika, you wanted to ask a question?
Good afternoon, sir. So I had a question just from a layperson's perspective. When the government sets a deadline to eliminate Naxalism, how does that actually translate into real operation planning for security forces? In your experience, do deadlines actually help on the ground, given that this is a challenge that has persisted across like successive governments?
So I'll put it this way. If the deadlines are given considering the ground realities, then it will make the forces, all right, look at their own strategies, tactics, and revise whatever they are doing and align themselves to the ground realities and go better. But if the deadlines are such that, for example, I'll tell you, when I was in SIB, the then Chief Minister in one of our meetings said that I want this eliminated in 6 months. So the senior most officers were hesitant to say anything at that time. But then I stood up and said, no, 6 months is impossible. You give us, we are asking for a short-term strategy, a medium-term strategy, and a long-term strategy. You give us all the three. Maybe in 3 years down the line, we'll come to a situation where it is totally under control, which doesn't mean that there will be no movement, no action, nothing. Yes, there will be stray incidents here and there, but you can't eliminate the total issue, but their influence, the level of sphere of influence, etc., will be controlled 100%. And the main teams will be out. There may be stray incidents here and there. The CM was extremely unhappy at that time. I said, what is it? I want it finished in 6 months, and you're saying in 3 years, and that too not full elimination. But that was then. But today, today, if the Home Minister or somebody is saying that this should be closed in 6 months, this is something, visible, reachable. If not 6 months, it will take 8 months, but then it is reachable and done. So what is can be done in 8 months, then you will have to revise your strategies and work on, and probably also bring in a bit of synergy in the various teams to make sure that it happens. Probably because of the direction from the above. That, and of course, one of the things was that when the state forces and the central forces together work without any seamlessly without any problem, then you get much better results. One of the things that you have seen happening in Chhattisgarh, for example, is that all these forces have started functioning seamlessly so well that this has been achieved so fast. And if, for example, to launch an operation like Kagar in that pocket for so long, sustained effort, the direction from the state and center both should be there together. If it is not there, with some losses here and there, then there will be a tendency to withdraw. But when support comes and says, no, no, we understand the problem you are in, we understand the type of challenges that you have to face, we are with you, go ahead. That sort of a thing, when forces also do go forward relentlessly and achieve what they have to achieve.
I had another question, Deeptiman. Can I ask? So
Go
my
ahead.
second question was, my second question was, sir, that assuming that the objectives are met by the government set deadline, would you see as the key elements of a long-term strategy to prevent the revival of the movement? I'm sure the work doesn't end there.
Absolutely. I have mentioned earlier also, what will happen is that you have removed the thorn. It doesn't mean that the field is red. Field has already been, seeds are planted and you got the crop. No, we have only removed the weeds. Weed removal is over. but the rest of the cultivation has still to happen. So, which means the government, its agencies, every one of them should move in. If there are no schools, schools should start. If there are no seed distribution centers, that they should come in. If there are no facilities for agricultural support, the agriculture, what do you call that, extension officer should move into those areas and start helping them. A lot of work has to be done. It's not that it's over there. A lot of work has to be done, and that has to go with the same intensity that has happened for the security forces. It is now for the developmental forces to work with the same intensity and enthusiasm, and then, of course, automatically there will be a transformation. If you read the 2000 year 2000 report of Naxals on Telangana and Warangal district particularly, you will see even in 2000 itself, the Naxals, one thing to give to their credit to them is that they record most of the things that they speak of. Even operations, what happened, they record very well. So that's where you have to give credit to them. And they have written very clearly there that the situation from the 80s to 2000 has changed so enormously that the type of struggle that we are doing now, saying that land to the tiller, etc., no longer, are relevant. We have to change. They were even recording to the extent saying that the women who were now earlier only in villages, now they are coming out. They are going in cycles. They are going to the cities for jobs. So that was seen by them in 2000 itself and reported by them saying that yes, we need to change our style. The same way here, even government agencies will have to. Earlier, lot of teachers would not go to interior villages schools. Lot of medical staff would not go to interior villages for fear of being, harmed. All that now is gone. So we have to make sure that the schools, the hospitals, and all the developmental agencies do move in there, stay where they are posted, and then be available to the public, help them in the way that they need the help. That's possible much better today with solar energy being available for lighting up the villages, even pumps. Everything can be done with solar energy. You don't even have to lay lines now. So all those problems are gone. So it can be done in a much better, more proactive way. And once that is done, I think the real purpose behind all these actions will be served.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Deeptiman.
Japrakash, you wanted to ask another question?
Yeah, yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, please.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask, Ritika just asked it, but just to take it forward, one thing which I have observed is the people of Bastar are still untouched by mining. There is a little bit of mining going on in Beladila, but apart from that, the mass displacement that will happen, whether it is for the army maneuver range in Narayanpur or it is of the Bodh Ghat project that will come up, or even in Nakarnar, they are saying there will be more displacement. So, and of course, when the mining starts, the red water will start flowing. You know, it will go into it will affect the irrigation that the tribals do. So, in such a situation, now the Naxals had, we have to give credit to them that because of the Naxals, that much mining was not happening. But now it will start. We all know it will start. So, what does the government need to do to ensure that there is the tribals, they don't end up feeling that this Naxals were actually had stopped mining from coming here. So, what the government needs to do in this regard to ensure that the tribals don't feel that something wrong has happened.
So, what you are saying is that mining is likely to start immediately, and that because of the mining, there's going to be a large scale uh, displacement of people. And they'll have to
Mining, that irrigation project of Bodh Ghat, then there is army maneuver range. So there are a few different things. Yeah.
So what you're saying is there will going to be a large displacement of people, and which naturally, if you want to displace people, there will be a lot of resistance, and more than resistance, also some people would not like to leave their places. But so
The livelihood will also be under question. The red water that will flow once the
So
mining starts.
if the livelihood is the issue, then livelihood can be created elsewhere. That's what the people who want to propose that will say. But one is the very first fact is that moving out of their places from where they have come, that will be a
Yeah.
major resistance. But to my mind, if I'm seeing here, there's already a lot of movement of people happening with education and other things happening. In fact, I see in my own place here, for example, I don't find people to work for routine things. They're all interested in going and working in malls because they get a very comfortable stay there and they would like to do that. So alternative opportunities will be given. But more important is, will that be bring about ecological imbalance and will lead to some destruction of forests and others? That is the major issue that will come up along with the displacement of the people. I don't know. I mean, I'm not aware of what's happening there at the moment, but I'm sure there will be some plans that will be taken up for not like the Salvador camps. That's a disaster. The Salvador camps is a disaster. In fact, some of them I have seen. I felt very bad about it, but I hope there will be a much better way of dealing with this problem than the way Salvador camps were dealt with, and people do get a protection of their livelihood and then also at the same time some ecological balance being maintained in the whole thing, while it may not stopping the development which is inevitable to happen at some point of time or the other.
So just one last question from my side. Sir, a former DG of Border Security Force, I had read that in a book called Hello Buster. So he had said that Naxalism will never end till redistribution of land is done. How much true does this feel to you, sir?
See, whether you call it Naxalism or any other move, as long as there is some social injustice, financial imbalance, there will be some amount of angst in the people. There will be people who will still be speaking up for them. But this sort of violent expression of the same, I don't think it will happen in Bastar after this is over. Once this is cleared, it will not happen. And what he mentioned at one point of time, probably the book must have been written many, many years back, not today. So it
Hmm.
was probably the perception at that point of time. I don't think that the same perception remains at the present juncture. Even if he has the same person now, it probably he will not give the same reply now.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Uh, Thank you, Japakash. Sir, I take you back to some of the operational discussions that we were having, and interesting you mentioned about coordination and how smooth it has become between central forces and state police. Now, in the past couple of years, if we look at, particularly in Chhattisgarh, we see the state police leading operations, particularly the DRG. And this is what we had seen was lacking in Chhattisgarh earlier, because of which there were arguments that central forces cannot win this fight. In Andhra, it was the Andhra police which won it. In Jharkhand Jaguars did a great job. In West Bengal, it was West Bengal police which defeated the Maoists. So what happened that it took Chhattisgarh such a long time to maturely handle this threat, taking a leadership role. You have been you were there as the CRPF DG at the time, and we used to suffer casualty after casualty, even though we had many successful operations also. So, you know, and now in the past couple of years, we see that DRG is taking the lead, and it has actually matured as a force. And there have been many successes because of the state government taking the lead, and not the CRPF essentially.
Yeah. So let me tell you one or two small things which probably many are not aware of. One is, yes, in Andhra, it was the Andhra police then that took the lead with their own special teams like Greyhounds and SIB, which dealt with the problem as their problem. Still, we had in those days also 4 battalions of CRPF with us, and we always acknowledged that they're the best in camp protection. Uh, I'm speaking of the late 80s and 90s. So then coming to West Bengal, while West Bengal police dealt with the problem, it was the Cobra which actually launched the last operation and in which Krishnji was killed. It was Cobra of CRPF which did that operation. Now coming to um, Chhattisgarh. In Chhattisgarh also, it was the DRG and the state police which is taking lead, which is the right thing to do and which we always insisted that should be done. After all, if you remember, in this federal setup that we have, the law and order is with the state police. They are the ones who are expected to deal with the problem. Where do central police come? We come there to assist them, to empower them, to strengthen their hands, not to actually to lead the whole thing. So it's always best that they deal with it. But even there, the DRG, it was a good concept to bring in DRG. It's like C16 Maharashtra. And in fact, even CRP itself, we raised a Bastar battalion with the locals.
Yes.
The idea was that we understand the strength that they bring with them. However, they had certain deficiencies. To overcome these deficiencies, DRG was trained in conjunction with I mean, CRPF facilitated that. I'll not go into the details of the whole thing, but CRPF facilitated that, and they were trained with some army officers and brought certain discipline which they were at that point of time lacking. I'm speaking of 2016-17 time, when the central government facilitated the whole thing. So central government at every point has helped this sort of a work of empowering the state police. I mean, central government did fund multiple schemes to strengthen police stations, provide weapons, vehicles, all sorts of things that it was doing. But ultimately, the responsibility should be that of the state police. And the day the state police takes that role of leadership, saying that yes, we will lead, you support us, draw the support from the forces, that will be the day when the maximum results will be achieved. And that's what exactly is being seen. But one thing more beautiful that has happened in Chhattisgarh is that not just the support, but now there's the synergy that has been brought about between all the forces, with the DRG being trained so well, with Cobra and the CRP supporting them fully, and their own um, Chhattisgarh Armed Force, CAF and others supporting 100%. It's bound to happen, but it took a little longer there, but it happened now.
Uh, because you have headed a force, a central force. You have also been part of a crack commando force in a state. Now, tell me, where, as you spoke about this coordination, in the past couple of years, we've seen great coordination. I mean, the fact that Hidma ran away from Chhattisgarh and there was real-time intelligence sharing, and in Andhra Pradesh police, gets him. It's a beautiful example of different state forces coordinating along with, central intelligence agencies and central forces. It's a great example of a very well coordinated operation. Uh, why was it not happening earlier? I mean, earlier also we were constantly hearing that Maoists are moving in the AOB axis. तो कभी उड़ीसा घुस जाते हैं, तो वहां से महाराष्ट्र चले जाते हैं, तो फिर पकड़ में नहीं आते, तो कभी आंध्र चले.
Okay.
What lagged earlier?
Let me tell you, in fact, one point which I missed in the last one was, why is it that different states have different type of... See, the strength of AOB was in favor of the Naxals, the thick jungles, the dispersed population, and lack of roads, lack of even maps. That sort of a thing is what helped them the maximum. And in Telangana, so in fact, earlier I was telling you, for Telangana, we had a different type of training, Andhra, we had a different type of training, and AOB, we had a different type of training. Reason was the road network was so well laid out in Telangana by that time that we could go into any interior portion within one day, operate for a day inside the forest, and come back within one day. A 3-day operation was sufficient. Whereas that extended to 5-day operation in Nalamala belt. And when we used to come to AOB, it used to be a 7-day operation because of the terrain, the type of hills, the rolling hills, one after another. So even to cross them, it used to take time. So if I have to go to an interior place, it would take me minimum 3 days. Now coming to Chhattisgarh, the terrain is much less of a bush than compared to Telangana, but no roads, no connectivity, no information much about. And after Salvajudum, what happened was that the entire information structure that was there was totally demolished. So getting information itself was a very difficult thing. And the Naxal strength was so large there. In fact, they were going to mobile warfare, so they could quickly group together and almost get about 150 people together and disperse also quickly. Whereas in Andhra, it used to be the strength used to be only about 15, maximum 20 at any point of time for a Dalam. This story was different in Chhattisgarh. In fact, when I used to be in Greyhounds and launch operations in Chhattisgarh, there used to be demand saying that please don't send one team, but send multiple teams. So we would club two teams together. So what used to be only about 18 to 20 would become now 40 team, a strength of 40. And such teams, 3, 4 would be sent at one time into the operation for operation. So that's the type of situation. The terrain is different. So therefore the tactics to be deployed, the strength of the enemy is different at different places. So the tactics to be deployed are different in different places. So that has to happen like that. Now coming to the intelligence part, it's not true that we never had that information in the past. In fact, we launched so many operations in Orissa or Chhattisgarh for that matter. Only some of it coming from them itself, saying that okay, we got information here, but we are not able to launch an operation here. Can you help us? And when some of our CRP boys were stuck in a particular place, I immediately called up Telangana police and told them, look, your border is close by. It is much easier for you to send some forces from that side to support them rather than me to send from within Chhattisgarh. And they did send their forces to some distance, so where I could immediately bring the other forces and club and help them each other. So this was happening. Only thing is, yes, it was much bigger scale. It was happening now probably, and that is what helped them to, so the information flow probably is becoming much more seamless again because of some technological interventions that we have brought about, and that is how it happened. So yes, there was information in the past also, but maybe things have become much smoother and much better now than in the past.
Since we're talking about the past, looking back, uh, could you tell us, were there any key mistakes, both operational or political, that delayed India's success against Maoists? What would you have done, if you were in charge, what would you have done differently with the benefit of hindsight?
Uh, you see, for example, in Andhra, whichever may be the political party, it was never said that you stop anti-Naxal operations. Yes, there was a time when the Naxals came out for talks. And when they came out for talks, there was a cessation of operations from our side. In fact, when the talks were going on, I was taken as the Greyhounds chief. And then immediately one of the things I said was that, all right, while we have been asked not to conduct operations, it doesn't stop us from training people. So I sent my officers to different districts to train local people on, you know, jungle warfare tactics. So some districts they said, sir, we don't have any problem with us. Why are you wasting your time with us? We said, no. You think that you don't have it, but tomorrow it can happen. In fact, those are districts adjoining Nalamala, and then they had incidents there later. So, but by that time, though the incidents happened because they were trained, they were good for that. At the same time, for example, when I told my boys that after some time, when the talks went on to a certain level, and then I said, okay, now it's time for us to move from village to village. You don't engage the enemy or don't go in search of the enemy, but move from village to village to see what's happening. And some officers, yes, I can confess that some officers did object to it, saying that, do you want to scuttle the talks? I said, no, I'm not there to scuttle the talks. We are there just to see that we don't lose our edge. Today we have some edge, we have gained confidence of the people, but if we totally vanish from the people's side, they'll think, "Arre, itna bharosa de ke bhag gaye." So we'll have to go meet the people. We don't go in search of the enemy, but we go in search of the villages. We go into the villages and support them about what's happening there. And but then the chief minister said, no, revenue officers shall accompany the police officers and go to villages. How can you not go to villages? You should go to villages and make the presence of government felt. Now, that sort of a thing, continuity of thought politically, is one thing that will help everywhere. We did have some, as you said, political this thing. In some states, for some time, there's a refusal to accept that Naxals are a threat. And that is something which helped them sustain. So it's like a balloon half filled with air. You press one place, it goes to another place. You press another place, it comes down to third, to the original place. So they were able to move from place to place. But now look what happened. They ran from there, they came here and they were shot down. Supposing the Andhra police were not to be active and were to have closed shop saying that nothing is happening in our area, so we'll be comfortable. No, they said no. Any day this can happen here. The same was happening in Telangana. I know very much that Telangana was also on the alert that activity happening there would mean the Naxals will come here. So let us be alert. So they have activated all their information channels in Telangana also. And it is providential that they went to Andhra and not to Telangana. Presuming that Andhra is those pockets where they went to, they're far away from the forest belt, saying that these are safe zones. But they didn't know that the police were already active, keeping their information channels open and trying to see whether somebody is moving in. So that sort of thing is what happened. Tactically, if you say, I mean, about operations per se, from the security forces side, there's no such thing as an approach wise being wrong, but definitely there are sometimes some operations where probably we made some mistakes, uh, not because of anything else, but probably because of only local officers making a mistake in the conduct of the operation, either because of over enthusiasm or due to lack of proper appreciation of the situation. Other than that, I don't think there's anything that I can say as something that would have changed the course of the events.
Interesting, you mentioned that certain states considered, at one point of time, at least considered Naxalism not to be a threat. Could you elaborate which are these states? Was Chhattisgarh one of them?
No, I wouldn't like to say anything like that now because no, that's past, and I wouldn't like to dwell on the past. Um, but let me say this much: the situation is totally different today. Even those states which once considered it not their problem, they have acknowledged it as their problem, taken such proactive steps that the problem no longer, it's not treated as somebody else's problem.
I will ask the last question because you also have another place to go. Uh, so now we have, we are on the last leg of, sort of finishing Maoism, at least operationally, one would say. And, as areas become liberated and we have gone deep into the forested areas, there are CRPF camps and everything. So areas, when areas become liberated and there is no Maoist presence, what should the CRPF and the state police be doing to ensure that successes are durable and communities feel protected rather than occupied? Uh, what would be a responsible, exit strategy?
So it's funny that you use the word liberated. The Maoists used to say that we should surround the villages, take the control on them, then surround the towns and liberate them. That was the term they used to say, that they have to liberate the people from tyranny of the state. And now you are saying that now that they are going to be liberated, so liberated from the tyranny of the Maoists. Yes. So what should be done by the security forces? So even when I was there, we were making an offer saying that let each CRP camp become a hub where all the benefits of the state are made available, right from ration to everything else. I do not know what happened now because this was the proposal that we mooted at that point of time, and we wanted the government to react to that and use our facilities there. In fact, we also went to the extent of saying that let's install some generators here and provide electrical power to the village nearby. That is the level to which we are ready to support and help. So this sort of a this sort of an understanding of the problem of the local people should be taken up very seriously. And it's not just the security forces. Security force can only be a place where some of these benefits can be doled out. Like I said, the CRP was having four field hospitals in interior areas where nothing else was available. So use the facilities right now that have been created there. Today we have created a large number of camps. Had to help lay roads, etc., and open up the place. Now these things should be taken use of and benefit, and they should be converted into good training centers, whether it is skill training or primary school education, and then help them come out of that. Along with that, give like cycles to children to so that they can move faster from one village to this nearby town. You know, get the benefits of that. Similarly, for marketing of their own forest produce, make facilities for that. If the forest can be, in addition to what is growing there, can be made into a good place for producing things like, say, coffee plantations or fruit orchards, etc. That sort of a thing should be helped to make sure, because that's a beautiful weather that they've got there. It's a lovely place. In fact, it's sad that it is close to many people, but those forests are lovely forests. So they can also be made to some tourist spots, some of them. So all those things should be exploited to the maximum, and the benefits of it should go to the people. If that can be done, uh, then there's nothing better than that. That was the best thing that can happen to people. That all the benefits of the government scheme that they're speaking should be available to them, number one, and revenue sources should be created for them, to each one of them. And so, because there are multiple revenue sources that can be generated there now, and all that should be exploited to the maximum. And big corporates, if they are there, they're like Madam was saying earlier that in Maharashtra, they're giving employment to surrendered Naxals, etc. Now it should be open to everybody here, and whatever they're doing, some of their CSR funds, other things they should channelize here and help development of that area, the holistic development of the place. So health, Medicare, education, etc. All these giving the primary importance, then other things, skill development and other things coming along with that.
Added to that question, a final closing question. In 2003 plenum of the CPI Maoist, Ganpati had said that as long as there is socio-economic inequity, I will raise the dalam even in Washington, D.C. Can Maoism be revived in India?
So it's like this. Long back when I was in Haryana, and I was speaking to officers about some letters that were seen from Naxals, etc. Somebody said Haryana is such an advanced state. So how can there be a scope for any movement like Naxalism? So my response then was that the inequity need not necessarily be in financial status. Even in social status, if there's an inequity and people feel that pinch enormously, somebody can always stand up and say, this is unfair. And when that is not heard for too long, then that can take the shape of violence. So why do you give scope for that? So if there is something that is perceived, and if we as security officers or police officers can address part of it, let us take it as a divine duty that we should attend to that immediately and see that this sort of injustice is not just felt and seen. Let's put an end to that, and that can happen. So, coming to the thing that yes, if there is an inequity, enormous inequity at some place, there will be people who will be raising a voice. It need not necessarily be Ganapati. It can be anybody else. It can be you. It can be me. Only thing is, we should feel that pinch so much that we should stand up and say that. So that can happen. That can happen.
Great, sir. On that note, thank you so much, sir. Your conversation with you has been truly illuminating. I'm sure everybody has seriously enjoyed this. Our editor Unni sir is also part of the session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Unni. The only thing is, I said again, the rider wing, that I'm slightly away from some of the latest developments. So you'll have to put it in that context and see the whole thing.
The people who are very close to the latest developments are tight-lipped, sir. So, had you been so close to the latest developments, you wouldn't have been speaking so freely, probably. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time. It was a short notice. I really pushed you, but you spared some time for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Good day, gentlemen. Good day, madams. Thank you.